Yusuf Moola, Senior Sharia Portfolio Manager at Sanlam Private Investments, and Mufti Ahmed Suliman, the Chairman of Sanlam Private Investments, the Sharia Board, are our guests this evening. According to some research done by Dr. Paul Temporal at Oxford University, the number of Muslim people in the world by 2050 will be 60%. 60% of the world's population in 2050 will be Muslim under the age of 18 years. And his research suggests that these consumers will keep the Islamic values and will want appropriate products. And he said there are a number of emerging market sectors which will offer huge opportunities in the future. And that's where I suppose you will climb in and make sure that you take advantage of those particular opportunities coming up in the near future.
Yeah, look, if you traditionally look at Europe and population densities and stuff, the Muslim guys actually are still having multiple children. So if you go to the West and you look at Germany or you look at the UK, you'll see that birth rates are on a decline, and guys are having one child instead of having 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 3. Yeah. Whereas the Muslims are still having between 3 and 5 children. So that number I agree with. Bulk of the population in Indonesia or in Asia are definitely, or Africa, are youth. So it's a massive market. When those guys enter the job market and start earning money, they would need investment products. And also on the halal food market, I mean, it's going to explode. At the moment, at least 1/3 or 25% of the population of the world are Muslim anyway. And if you look at 6 billion, then you're looking at 1.5 billion or whatever. So it's a massive market. Malaysia are the leaders at the moment. And the other area of for the investment side, which is looking very bright, is the petrodollars. After the September 11 incident, the Arabs are not putting money into the US as they were in the past, and also the America being downgraded. It's not looking as attractive as it was 10 years ago maybe, and the money is flowing. I mean, I spoke to a colleague of ours in Australia, and he's saying that the petrodollars are coming in there in a big way. That Gold Coast basically is practically half owned by the Arabs already.
A huge property market there.
Yeah, and in South Africa also, I mean, a simple example would be the V&A waterfront went into Arab hands, and then recently Growthpoint took it back. So, there's massive potential. So it's not only the South African market. One of the main key areas that we're focusing on in the South African market is the compulsory funds. The pension monies.
How do you handle that, the pension side of it?
You see, the pension side of it, when a guy moves a job and he needs to now lock that money and make it compliant, we can help him via a Glacier platform. Otherwise, if he belongs to a normal pension, and they can access the Glacier platform, then we can get hold of that money as well. Or we can speak to his trustees, like we're doing with one other big company, we won't mention their name, but they've got 150 employees. We're talking to the trustees to try and make that the Glacier or the Sanlam option available, and then they can just tick the Sanlam SPI Sharia option, and we'll manage that for them. But we personally see the biggest growth in that compulsory money space.
Mufti Ahmed, you were saying earlier when we were in the break, and I've forgotten, you wanted to raise something and I've forgotten where we were.
I just wanted to clarify one point.
Yeah.
Some people ask a question that when you invest in the stock market, all the companies you buy in fact, I think it would be correct if we say almost all the companies in the Sharia universe would be earning some sort of interest in some way or the other. And earlier on, at the beginning of the program, I mentioned that interest is a no-go zone for Muslims and Muslim investors.
Yeah, I suppose any company on the stock market would, in some form, be earning interest somewhere.
So that's the point I wanted to actually clarify. To say that by investing in these companies, it does not mean that Muslims are actually gaining from the interest component of the company's gain. We have certain criteria that we look at. Firstly, the company should not be earning any sort of impermissible income as a bonus, which is hardly the case. So then there is a tolerance ratio of 5%. A company should not be earning interest plus any other non-permissible income in excess of 5% of total revenue. Okay. That's a small amount, all right? But given that 5% is a tolerance ratio, when we work out when we look at the balance sheet, we will actually purify the percentage of non-permissible income. So when a client receives his dividend, we will go back to the balance sheet and we will see that what percentage of income or what percentage of money that lies in that profit is actually earned from non-permissible sources.
Okay.
And then we will strip that out and give that to charity. So when a Muslim investor receives his dividend,
that is
net of any impermissible income.
Okay.
And impermissible income is not only interest income. For example, a company might earn some sort of revenue from something that's not permissible, maybe a sale of an impermissible item or some sort of business that is not compliant, maybe some non-halal food or beverage, etc. But the tolerance ratio is 5%. If it's more than 5%, we won't invest in that company. Okay. If it's less than 5%, we could invest in that company, but then strip that portion of non-permissible income out.
Do you then, I mean, this leads to another question. Yusuf, you must then have, for want of a better term, Sharia compliant accountants, because these guys must know. Or how do
That's
you?
a brilliant question, because if we look at our religious scholars like Mufti Ahmed here, there might be 700 in a country, and there might be 30 or 40 that have the necessary skills. They got the Islamic knowledge plus the accounting knowledge. You need to be able to dissect that balance sheet properly and understand finance properly. So that's why the pool of scholars is limited in the country, and we're very happy that we got the caliber of Mufti Ahmed on our board. He has to make sure that he does the audit, so he checks everything. We've got an internal Sharia analyst that works with us as well. He's been trained by Mufti Ahmed, so he does a purification process, and then Mufti Ahmed has a look at it to make sure everything was done right, and then they finally purify.
So basically you've got the board which sits down and says, here are the companies that you may invest in, or the instruments which you may invest in, and then they say, Yusuf, off you go.
That's correct.
Go and find the clients.
Yeah, besides finding the clients, we obviously now have to manage the portfolio. So what happens is we've got the universe that's investable. From there, we put the Sanlam models on and check what's making sense. So it's great that company ABC is Sharia compliant, but if it's overvalued from a Sanlam perspective, and we expect the share not to do well, we're not going to invest in it, because we ultimately need to make money for the guy. Can I ask you a very personal question here? Why did you go to Sanlam? Why didn't you just do this on your own? Why did a group of like-minded Muslim people get together and start their own fund? Okay, look, the Islamic market in South Africa is a very difficult market, simply because we've had about 10-15 years ago we had the Islamic Bank, which was in operation for 10-15 years, went bust. Guys lost tremendous amounts of money. Then like any other community, we had fly-by-night guys coming around and wiping guys out, taking their money, and the likes of pyramid schemes and that type of stuff.
Okay, so it was really just to give the credibility to the
credibility, the brand, and when you're playing with a big market. Our product is a high net worth product. I mean, our minimum is R1 million. So we're playing in a high net worth space to make it comfortable for the big investor. The Sanlam brand. It will be much easier to attract the high net worth guy with a Sanlam brand than with my own.
Okay, I understand that perfectly. I said going into the break that you don't have to be Muslim to be investing in funds like this. Are you getting a fair amount of non-Muslim people who are investing?
We get queries in the green guys, the guys that are green conscious, number one, the guys that are socially responsible also. So you'll have a guy who doesn't want to buy alcoholic company like SA Breweries because of the after effects, the drinking and driving, the wife beating, whatever. I mean, for those reasons. Then you'll have guys that don't want to touch the smoking aspect, the PTIs, simply because of they believe that you shouldn't sell a product that harms somebody. So there is definitely interest from there, but in South Africa that's a very small area. Guys are not that, the investors are not that astute like in Europe or in actually in America, where the green investor has his dollar is much more from a percentage point of view is much more than in South Africa. But we're definitely having a socially responsible guys that are looking at our portfolio.
But I would imagine though, Mufti Ahmed, that you would get a move towards that, because people are becoming more green conscious and socially aware. And excuse me, and are looking at issues like this.
Yes, in fact, if you look at it from a pure religious perspective, if you go back to your original scriptures of different religions, you will find that Islam is not the only religion that prohibits interest. There are other religions as well, and you'll find it's interesting that other religions also do not allow one to be involved in interest and to take and give and pay interest. Research has been done. I can actually email you those quotations from the various scriptures. But then if you go to the Islamic market and go to Malaysia, for example, in Malaysia we attended a conference and we heard there are large numbers of non-Muslims that have taken to the Islamic market and have invested in the Islamic banks and Islamic companies in Malaysia.
That's very interesting, and I'd like to get those details from you, actually. Right, now, here I am, sitting at my desk, and I have, you said your minimum investment is R1 million. Okay. Right, so I have R1 million. Yes, of course I do. I work in media, you chop. There's no chance I'd have R1 million. Right, so I've got R1 million, and I come to you. What sort of return am I going to get? I know Mufti Ahmed was saying that you can't really do because you're buying and you're selling and all the rest of it.
Yeah, but that he's talking about now the banking side, right?
Yeah, you're talking about
I'm talking of
shares.
Investments purely, the portfolio. We basically, we've got a track record on our normal portfolios of 10 years. Mm-hmm. We've got an excellent investments, strategy and method. Basically, we promise, our benchmark, first of all, is a 5 Sharia compliant unit trust. We average that. And we're trying to, outperform the benchmark. We're looking at basically giving a guy a long-term returns of, roughly 20%. If you're taking a 5-year view, in 5 or 6 years, you could treble your money. Let's put it that way. We're not offering the world or extremely high returns. We want to outperform inflation and the benchmark handsomely, and our costs are lower than the competition. So traditionally, that has helped us to outperform the benchmark.
So I mean, basically, it's the same as any other stockbroker is doing. You're saying take a long-term view. You're not in here for the short term. You've got to keep your money in place if you're going to play the market. And the only difference is you are making sure that the companies you invest in are the ones that people like Mufti Ahmed are saying to you, these are safe from a Sharia point of view. It's that simple.
Look, it's Sharia compliant, and then the SPI has an excellent track record on outperforming its peers and benchmarks. So we are giving that added investment performance as well.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much. It's been absolutely fascinating talking to you, gentlemen, from a layman's point of view, and thank you very much for sharing that with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much.